Fantastic, because there's power in the house. How many of you think this whole problem of drugs in America has gone too far? How many more folks have to get hurt before we start saying something's got to change?
It's okay. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me.
Everybody wants to change the world. Nobody wants to change themselves. You need to be the people who are trying to turn things around instead of waiting for somebody else to do it.
Tell him that you care about him and that you want him to get his life back together.
How many of you know that enough is enough? If you know that enough is enough, please stand up and tell someone sitting next to you, enough is enough, it's gotta stop. Enough is enough, it's gotta stop. Enough is enough, it's gotta stop. I'm Milton Crea, and I travel all over the country talking to young people about a lot of the choices that we have to make in our lives. No matter who you are, as we go through our walk in life, we come across a hallway of doors kind of like this one. It seems to me that you all have to walk down this long corridor. And on either side of the corridor are doors. And each door represents a different type of behavior that could trap you. If you go through the wrong doors, in too many cases it can lead to destruction. Things like getting high, drug dealing, gang banging, sex. You walk that path and you end up having to walk it alone. And as you pass each one of these doors, you can often hear, maybe friends of yours on the other side of the door. You can hear them laughing, you can hear music. And it seems like they're having a lot of fun and the doors seem so seductive. And all you have to do is reach out and grab one of these doorknobs, give it a little turn and open it just a little bit. And for a certain percentage of you, and the percentage varies with each behavior we talked about, that's all you have to do is grab that door once and you could be trapped. But we're gonna talk about some of the people that I've met over the years who've gone through these doors and had some bad times, had some hurts, had some pain. And you can't always tell it when they come to school because a lot of people have become so good at putting on a mask. We're hurting so much. There's so many people in trouble that we got to take those false faces off and show the real truth about what's happening in America. See, one of the reasons why, folks, I'm not going to let you all in this room or anybody else that I meet in America, when it comes to drugs and alcohol, wear a mask and act like nothing's wrong, act like everything's okay, it's because we're in so much trouble right now, it's frightening. Because one of the things I find as I go around the country, a lot of people are very, very good at putting on a mask. And they wear that mask around every day and they make everybody think everything is fine, when inside that person could be hurting. We're going to talk about that and look at it. But now, one of the things you need to understand, too, is this stuff can hurt people. You got to be one of the people who helps us, man. Don't let him die and be in vain, okay?
And when you're young, you want to fit in with the other kids. You want to be, you want to be like them. You want to dress like them. You don't want them to know that you have problems.
One of the choices we all have to make is whether to use drugs or not. Now, I know a lot of you are sitting there saying, I don't want to hear this, not another drug talk, because maybe you've already started using drugs, or maybe some of your friends have. And a lot of you think drugs aren't a big deal because you don't use them that much. So you think that so long as you're not addicted, it's okay. And some of your parents even think that. Let me tell you something. You don't have to be an addict or an alcoholic for drugs to hurt you, to destroy you. You can experiment with drugs just one time and OD, or have an accident, or hurt someone else. You may only get high at parties on the weekend with your buddies and still kill yourself. I hear so many young people say they can't have a problem because they're still getting good grades, still playing ball, still going to church, doing all the things they normally do. Well, all that means is that you bought into the lie, that story that people tell, that all kids who use drugs, their grades go down. All kids who use drugs lose their friends, lose interest in sports and music and other things. Well, that happens to some users, but not all. A lot of experimental and casual users look very normal and do normal things, but they're still slowly destroying themselves. Drugs can be so seductive, and they can make you think they're not a problem. Your parents may even think they're not a problem. Well, if they think that, they don't have a clue. And what's frightening is that some of you don't either. Let me show you what I mean.
Good dinner, Mom.
Thanks, hon.
Get this. Drugs are an increasing problem in elementary schools across the country. Elementary schools.
Thank goodness we don't have any problems like that around here.
It's getting late. We better go.
Here, get some snacks for your friends. Have a good time, all right?
Hey, don't be late. Have a good time at the mall and keep an eye on your brother.
No problem.
These people don't have a clue. Mom and dad, they think it never happened to their kids, not in this neighborhood. Little brother thinks he can just stay out of it, ignore the whole thing. Barb, she thinks that she can do whatever she wants to do. She's just having some fun. It'll never hurt her.
That is so funny. That happens every time we get together.
She's a freak.
And look what I have for later. And I know where we can get some good powder, too.
You better be good.
Oh, yes, that's me.
Bye-bye.
I wonder where she's going.
You know where she's going. You know, I tried to talk to her, but she said that if I'm her friend, then I should just watch her back and be there for her.
Be there. Be there? Her friends know she's in trouble. Her brother knows she's in trouble. Her brother, he's staying out of it because he doesn't know what to do. Her friends, they don't want to hurt her feelings. Maybe being there isn't enough. Some of you have friends that are doing things that you know can get them in trouble too. And maybe you're just being there. That's not enough. Do you know you don't even have to use drugs for drugs to destroy you? I've met young guys who sell drugs, don't use. And I'm quick to tell you they don't use because they think it's stupid. Instead, they sell drugs because they're going to get rich. A lot of them go to jail. A lot of them, instead of getting rich, they get dead. It's always amazing to me how there's such a difference between what parents think is really going on with young people and what young people tell me is going on. Let's take a look at what the young people had to say. I think you'll be surprised at the difference. How many of you in this room would tell the truth? How many of you in this room know at least one person in your age group, and I define your age group as being your age exactly, up to 2 years older than you, down to 2 years younger than you? How many of you in this room know at least one person in your age group, just one, who you know for a fact, you are not guessing, you know for a fact, drinks? Hands down. I asked your children in your community, right down the street, 300-400 yards from here, I asked your children a series of questions. I'm going to tell you what I asked your kids, then I'm going to tell you what your kids said. How many of you in this room know at least one person in your age group who's already started smoking pot, marijuana, whatever you want to call it, marijuana, reefer, blunt, chronic? What percentage you think, Dad? 50? 50? I'm so glad you're here. You need to be educated. 50. How many of you in this room know at least one person in your age group who you know for a fact has already tried smoking marijuana? What do you think, Dad?
Oh, 75.
You sit with him. Put you all in remedial class. Folks, do you know when I asked your children that question, I wish it had only been 50%. I got about 95, 97% of your kids who raised their hand. And do you know what's real scary to me? When I went to one of the middle schools, I got more hands on marijuana than I got on alcohol. How many of you in this room know at least one person in your age group, just one, who you know for a fact has tried one of the following? Either snorted cocaine, smoked crack, dropped acid or LSD, taken some kind of speed or pep pill, or used some kind of inhalant and huffed something to get high? Keep your hands up a minute. I come into a school like this, I talk about drugs and alcohol. Some of you think no big deal. But you know what I can tell you? 1 out of 4 girls in this room is going to get sexually assaulted or raped before she reaches the age of 35. And the guy who does it to her, in many cases, they will be under the influence of alcohol. And you know what I can tell you? If it happens to one of you young ladies, you're not going to say, hey, at least it's just a little alcohol. There's going to be some pain, some embarrassment, some hurt, something that'll stay forever. And you know what makes it so bad? Some of you in this room, it's already happened to you or somebody in your family. So let me ask you another question. And I apologize because for some of you, this is a painful question. I apologize in advance. But you tell the truth. How many of you in this room have a female in your family, either your mama, one of your sisters, a cousin, an auntie, or a grandma, or one of your real good friends who you know for a fact, you're not guessing, you know for a fact, has already been either sexually assaulted, raped, or beaten by a boyfriend or husband? Y'all keep your hands up a minute. Keep your hands up a minute. Everybody else look around. Y'all look around. Administrators look around. Teachers look around. Those of you who thought this was funny, look around. Y'all look around. There's something wrong with that many of us knowing somebody that's happened to. You know what's frightening to me and embarrassing? As I looked over in this section right here, and I'm not going to embarrass anybody, but I looked over in this section right here, and there was a guy, when I started talking about girls getting raped, and he knows who he is, he looked at the person next to him and started smiling. And for the young ladies in this room, I hope not one of you ever dates this idiot, because anybody who thinks a woman being violated is funny, he ought not ever have a date. He ought to date a dog somewhere. How many of you in this room, and please tell the truth, how many of you in this room have someone in your family or a good friend of your family who has already been either killed or has died from something drug dealing, or alcohol related? Y'all look around. How many more folks in your community got to die? How many more folks have to get hurt before we start saying something's got to change? It's time to take the mask off, because no matter how well you think that you're hiding what's going on in your life, there are people who know. They can see through. Whether your mask is something like this, or whether your mask is how you wear your clothes, or the attitude that you show people, there are people who will know what's going on. If you got somebody in your family who's in trouble, you got a friend of yours who's in trouble, you need to get them some help. If you don't know what to do, that's okay, but it is not okay for you not to try. If you don't know what to do, you start by talking to somebody. If you don't know who to talk to, start by talking to one of your teachers. If you don't want to talk to your particular teacher because you think they don't have a clue, you may be right, they may not. Then you find somebody else you can talk to. Don't want to talk to the teacher, go talk to the principal. Don't want to talk to the principal, talk to a coach. Don't want to talk to the coach, go talk to the assistant principal. Don't want to talk to them, go see a counselor. Don't want to talk to them, I'm in no rush. Before I leave here, you talk to me. But this isn't play, folks. This is real life, and real people get hurt, and real people are dying. And everybody acts like no big deal. I went down to the wonderful little area called Covington, met a cop there, came up to me after the program. He said, man, I had the worst bust of my life recently. I said, what do you mean? He went on to tell me he just busted a young white female, housewife, mother of 2. She married well, said she was an extremely beautiful young lady. The kind that when she was in high school, I think she was a homecoming queen in her high school, beautiful young lady. Well, she ended up marrying a guy who made good money. She didn't have to work. She was a housewife, had 2 kids, but you know what? She got strung out on prescription drugs. And after she was strung out on prescription drugs, one day somebody introduced her to something called crack cocaine, and she got hooked on crack cocaine. And after she got hooked one day, this guy ended up arresting her because one day he was on the vice squad. While he was on the vice squad, they went to bust a prostitution ring. They also found that these folks were making movies in there. And when they got in there, they found that there was an adult who was having sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old child. And they were filming it for a movie they could sell. I guess you have pedophiles out there who want to buy that. They also found another film that had already been done, and in that film was a young boy, 2 years old. And then the cops were like, where these kids come from? Whose kids are these? We don't have a report on kids being kidnapped. Where these kids come from? And then, you know, they found out where the kids came from. This woman, whose husband had the good job, who was strung out on crack, Apparently her husband had decided the best way to get her to stop doing drugs, best way to get her to stop, cut off the money. Took the ATM cards, took the credit cards, took her name off the checking account, cut off the money, that way she can't get high. Well, she didn't have any money anymore, but you know what she did? She took her 2 sons. In return for $85, let them use her boys for the day for $85. And some of you look at me as if you want to say, well, Milt, you know, that could never happen here. My friends would never do that. So what do you think? Do you think when that lady was homecoming queen, do you think when she was getting good grades in high school, do you think that she probably sat there one day, if she were in a program I was doing like this, do you think she would have sat here and said, gee, you know, that sounds really good. I can't wait till I grow up. One day, I'm going to sell my children for $85 worth of crack. Nobody thinks like that. She thought she'd never do it. She thought she would never do anything like that. Besides, she figured she was only drinking a little bit, only smoking a little pot. But one day it got to the point it destroyed her. Can you understand what her 5-year-old son is probably going to go through if he remembers what happened? Can you imagine what that boy's life's going to be like? I was recently in a town. I met a young white girl there who came up to me. Young girl was about 13, 14 years old, came up and told me that her mama's boyfriend was an alcoholic and her mama's boyfriend raped her when she was 6 years old. Mama was in a room drunk, boyfriend was drunk. He raped this little girl when she was 6 years old. She told her mama about it, crying, telling her mama. Her mama believed her. You know why mama believed her? Because the man admitted it. The man admitted it, but mama never called the police. Mama made him promise that he would never do it again. And you know what mama did a couple years later? She married him. And this little girl now has a living at home. And she's scared to death. She got raped again when she was 10. The guy who raped her when she was 10 gave her syphilis. This little girl scared to death. And she's sitting there, I said, baby, how do you feel? How do you feel, darling? I said, how do you feel about your stepdad who's living with you now? And you know what she said? She said, Mr. Creel, I wish I knew how to kill him. I said, baby, how do you feel other than that? She says, a lot of times I just wish I could die. So when I meet kids like that, no, this isn't a joke to me. This is real life. This is not play. This is real life.
I was raped before, and it's really upsetting for me. I was sexually assaulted.
It's okay, baby. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
I've been so scared since, and I don't know what to do about it.
I just wanted to tell you that I lost 2 aunts and a cousin to heroin.
Mm-hmm. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It's like the only sisters of my mom that I have left is one, and she's in a mental hospital for doing cocaine.
Mm-hmm. Was the guy drunk when he did this to you? He's somebody nobody would expect, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Until today, I didn't even realize how much this happened. Like you said, we kind of just brushed it off like it was like nothing. My sister had a friend, and her parents went away like for a week or a weekend or something, and they had a bunch of parties, and my sister would go and get high, and I don't know.
How old is your sister? How old is your sister?
15.
Okay.
He just lost it, so all he do is work, come home from work, drink 40 for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, smoke weed. That's all they do. So
A lot of things that happened when my daddy was addicted, I tried to hide or forget.
You know, there are a lot of situations like that. It seems that we always think the kids are the ones who have a problem with drugs, but I find in many cases the person who goes through that wrong door is often mom and dad. And you see, dope doesn't care. Dope doesn't care whether you're young or old. Dope doesn't care if you're mother, father, grandmother, granddaddy. Dope can get to anybody. And if you step through that wrong door, if you get seduced in, it doesn't care who you are. But let me tell you something, it hurts. It hurts if your mom and dad are getting a divorce because of mom and dad's drug problem. It hurts if mom and dad are about to lose their jobs because of a drug problem. It hurts if your mom or your daddy are locked up in jail because of a drug problem. It hurts if your family's about to get evicted because of dope. And yet I see that happen so often. I remember a couple of years ago, I had a chance to meet a young man. I spoke at a school down south, and this kid came up to me after the program. And when he came down, he was crying. He wasn't just a few tears coming down. This kid was boo-hooing. And I noticed something when he came down. It's like all the guys on the football team and the basketball team kind of circled us in a big huddle so that nobody laughed at this boy when he was crying because all his friends there on the sports teams, they knew what was going on. This kid came up to me and said, Mr. Creel, I just can't take this no more, man. I just can't take this no more. I said, what is it, brother? He said, man, my mama strung out in that crack rock and we about to get evicted out of our place. And I said, hang on, brother, it's gonna be okay. And he kind of pushed back from me. I mean, not just a little push, he kind of pushed back hard. And he said, what you talking about? It's gonna be okay, man. He said, man, my mama strung out on crack, man. He said, that's not gonna be okay. He said, what you talking about? That's not okay. He said, I got a little brother at home watching that stuff. It's not okay. And then he went on to tell me that one day he went into the locker room looking for some of his partners, one of his buddies. He said he went in there and he said he couldn't see his buddy. It was football season. He's a basketball player. And he said he heard some of the guys in the shower laughing and joking, so he went over there, figured his buddy was over there. Said he started walking over there, but he said then when he got over there, he could hear what they were talking about. And he said, man, they were over there. He said, they were over there laughing and talking. He said, you know what they were talking about? He said, they were over there laughing and joking about what my mama has done to people at the crack house when she didn't have any money and couldn't afford to pay her dope. He said, and they're supposed to be my friends, and they're over there laughing about my mama and what she's doing to people at the crack house. And he said, you know what made it so bad, Milt? He said, what made it so bad is I knew they were telling the truth. So you know what this kid did? All-state basketball player, quit the basketball team, stopped playing ball. You know what he did? Started selling crack. He wasn't a bad kid, but he didn't want his mama selling her body for dope. He didn't want his mama doing things like that. He didn't know how to get his mama to stop using drugs, but he did figure out he knew how to bring in some money so his mama wouldn't have to do that. So he started selling rock so his mama wouldn't prostitute herself. So when I meet kids like that, that upsets me.
You know, Robbie's a great kid. He changed things. He turned his life around by finally taking off that mask. No, his family's not fine yet. They still got some problems. But since he decided to take off that mask and be honest with himself and ask for help, Robbie and his little brother are doing much better now. You know, from time to time, I still come back to this gym where Robbie used to play. And I just can't help but wonder if maybe there are others out there like him.
I wonder if there's a Robbie on the court tonight.
See, dope hurts people. And some of you know from personal experience that dope hurts people. How many people does it hurt? Just last year in this country, we lost more people because of drugs than we lost in all 12 years of the Vietnam War. And yet some people still want to act like it's no big deal. Maybe it won't hurt you, maybe it's your mom or dad, but no matter who it is, it hurts. And we're in trouble, and enough is enough, and it's not going to change until we realize we got to get involved and do something. And no, it's not just people in the inner city. We know that the majority of the drugs are used primarily by white, middle-class, suburban people. I don't care if you're black, white, red, green, or what. Dope doesn't care either. It hurts anybody, anytime. And enough is enough. And it won't change until you and I decide to make it change.
You see, the truth is that this door is always open to you or me or anyone else. And what the door represents is you making the right decisions about your life or making bad decisions. Well, if you come through this door that talks about doing the right thing, then you gotta understand one thing. Take that mask off. No more pretending, no more acting like there's no problem here, no more acting like it can't hurt you or your friends. You gotta be for real. Because if you don't, more people are gonna get hurt. Enough is enough. Let's do the right thing before it's too late. Just about all of you know at least one person who's in trouble with drugs or alcohol. It may even be you.
So now let's talk about some solutions. Number one, first and foremost, set a good example. By that I mean, you need to be drug-free yourself. Before we talk about anything else, you need to be drug-free. And then try to identify some of your friends who are also drug-free and form an alliance. It's kind of hard sometimes to be the Lone Ranger, but if you got some friends of yours who are also drug-free, you all can go places together, do things together, and you know it's amazing, there'll be other people watching you who want to be like you and who'll start doing some of the things you do. If you're a member of a youth group, or a youth group at your church, at school, a club at school, a student council, whatever, you know, it might be something for you to think about to start having some drug-free activities on a regular basis. There need to be regular activities on an ongoing basis that are drug-free, but that are fun. Nothing boring, something that's fun. Along with that, I think you gotta remember, all the while you're planning events or doing something yourself, don't forget one thing. You are selling a lifestyle. If you look like you hate the way you live and you're drug-free, why should I want to be like you? Why should anybody else want to do that?
I think another thing I see people run into a problem with is that you sometimes will try to talk to your friends about what they're doing, if they're using, and you get uncomfortable because you don't know what to say. How do I get my friend to see that marijuana is bad? How do I get them to see they maybe shouldn't be snorting coke or doing whatever or drinking? You need more information about drugs yourself. So check with your school resource counselor, talk to your drug-free schools coordinator, and see if they can give you some information, some resource information, some brochures, so you have more knowledge, so you know how to go and talk to somebody about what's going on to sell your point again. Remember again, you're selling that lifestyle. And then an important thing, probably I should have said it first, is speak up. You know, we have something called freedom of speech in this country. That means you have a right to be heard. And if people don't want to hear it, you still have a right to be heard. And if you know you're saying something that's right, you got to make sure you say it. Also, make sure you find yourself an adult ally. A lot of problems that you come across, maybe if one of your parents is using, or maybe if one of your good friends is using, and you've tried everything you can to get that person to see that what they're doing is wrong, sometimes we gotta have an adult ally who can help us. Not that they can solve all the problems, but maybe they know someone that you can go to. Maybe they know some resources in the community that you can go to, but you need an adult ally. Another issue I'm real concerned with is that we get in denial. So probably you have to make sure that you're very honest with yourself. There's never been a major social change in the history of this country that young people weren't involved in. And if we're gonna solve these problems that are lurking behind those doors, I understand that old folks aren't gonna fix it, you're gonna fix it. You're gonna have to be the people who step up and speak up. And what that says is this: if you need some help, you let someone help you. If you know someone who needs some help, then you get them some help, because that's really what it's all about. We can't make it alone. We can't make it as individuals, but as a group, as a team, as people, we can turn things around.